Well, hi. Good noon, actually, almost. Thank you for inviting me and having me over. We are talking about education. This is the Israel Education Summit. And as someone who started her work in science education more than 28 years ago, I would like to begin with a story, because I think we're first of all storytellers. So I'm going to tell you a short story about myself. 28 years ago, I finished my PhD in science, molecular biology to be exact, and I decided to go and become a teacher because I felt that it was a shlichut, as we say in Hebrew. It's an emissary. It's something that I want to give to the world. So I walked into a school. Some 10 years after I finished high school as a student, I came back as a teacher. And three things happened to me that were life changers. And I think that all three of them teach a lesson that we should take into consideration whenever we speak of education and not only learning, because learning and education are not the same thing. First of all, the principal of the high school that I came to teach at looked at me and said, he hired me, and he said, okay, you have a PhD in molecular biology, let's agree that you know biology, but go study education. It's a profession. The fact that you know biology does not mean you know how to teach it. The second thing that happened was I walked into the first classroom that I started teaching, and I presented myself. And as I was saying who I was and what I know and where I came from, I saw my students' eyes grow. And finally, at a certain point, when I said I just came from the Weizmann Institute of Science with a PhD, he just couldn't hold back and say, "What on earth are you doing here?" Now that sentence gave me two things. First of all, someone with my kind of profile is not supposed to be an educator. You're supposed to do something else, go to high tech. But the second thing, which is I think more devastating, was that he said, I as a student am not worthy of someone of your profile teaching me, so why are you here? 28 years have passed, and the third thing that I noticed on that very first day was that 10 years after I left high school as a student, the world had changed. There was GPS, there was IVF. The internet was just starting its first steps. Yes, I'm that old. And I walked into the classroom, and the change there was also huge. It was so evident. Instead of a blackboard with white chalk, there was a whiteboard with a black marker. Big difference. When I asked a friend who was working with me later on in developing educational products to describe, he had two young daughters who were just starting first grade, to describe the school system, this is what he drew. He was a parent sending his kids to school, and he felt that that's what he's doing to them. But it can also go the other way. It's our job as educators to take off those boxes and to create an open, creative, flexible environment for our students, for our children, for our high school students, and for our college and academic students as well, because it's all one big continuum. It's not just at one age. Okay, so there you go. So today I am at the Davidson Institute of Science Education at the Weizmann Institute of Science. We are the educational arm of the Weizmann Institute. And the paradigms that I'm speaking of, and I'm going to show you in the next 4 minutes that I have, are what we try to implement every day. First of all, we have to go back to 1941, actually, when FDR did his 4 Freedoms speech. And these are the basic 4 freedoms that each and every citizen of the world, according to that speech, should have. Freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. We need to do the same in the classroom, because the 5th freedom is the freedom to have a good education. An education that opens your mind, allows you to look, allows you to create, and gives you actually the freedom to do 4 basic things, which I will go into in a minute. Because in order to do that, the basic thing that we need to do is we need to have environments, educational environments, and regardless of where they are, that if we want to develop active, creative, innovative students, that's the kind of environment that they need to study in. And here we heard a lot this morning about learning, not so much about education. There was a question here of how do we know that we're succeeding with our educational programs? Well, as that first principle told me, education is a profession. The fact that we all raise children and educate them does not mean, even though they're the best kids my kids are the best and most successful kids in the world, believe me. But that is not what made me a professional educator. A professional educator knows how to assess and evaluate what they're doing. The fact that I know how to put a Band-Aid on a scratch does not make me a trained nurse. The fact that I raised my kids does not make me a professional educator. And whenever you develop learning and you want to turn it into something, into skills, or something that people take into their own personal toolbox, we need to study, as that principle so beautifully told me, go and learn something about education. It's a profession. So what are the 4 basic freedoms of the freedom of education that we all need to pay attention to when we develop something that we want someone else to learn from? First, it's the freedom from coverage. The fact that we have a set specific curriculum is ridiculous in the age where knowledge and know-how and skill development is ubiquitous, free for all. Anyone can find it in many different ways in the palm of their hands. We used to go to libraries. I used to go to a library. Today, the library comes with me in my bag. Freedom from standardization. If there's something that we learned in the second half of the 20th century, is that each and every one of us is a different person. We're all human beings, but we have different learning abilities, different tendencies, different passions. Why are we standardizing the learning that we're offering? We're all talking about personalized medicine. We should also talk more about personalized education. We also need to allow the freedom to fail. Life is about trying and trying again. Harnessing good failure can lead to the development of imagination. It's thought-provoking. It also teaches a little bit of humility. Not everyone is going to be that startupist who did the huge exit. Probably not most of us. But we still need the same kind of creativity that each and one of us has. Try and try again. Our schools, our education systems do not allow us to fail. They punish us for failure. And of course, the last but not least is the freedom to imagine. Storytelling. We are storytellers. That's what is unique in my view in human beings as a species. So tell stories. The mastery of imagination, the ability to create wonder and exploration, that's what leads to new developments, the next step in high-tech or in any kind of other endeavor that you're in, and that's what leads to human development. So we all need to be the kind of role models to the people that we want to teach and educate. And these 4 freedoms, I think, if we don't remember them, when we're almost into finished the first quarter of the 21st century, and we have a lot of reason to understand that there's a lot of fundamentalism around us. This kind of freedom and liberalism is what we develop at the Davidson in almost everything we do. Please go online, see us, see what we do, and if you have any new ideas, feel free to contact us.
Thank you, Dr. Liat Ben-David, who is the CEO of the Davidson Institute of Science Education.